Good afternoon. My name is Andrew Foster with the Kansas Division of Emergency Management. Today's video is on web-based training for the KansasPlanner.com super system. Today we're going to specifically talk about the ESF 12 section of the Kansas Planning Standards as it relates to completing the emergency operations plan in the KansasPlanner.com system. A little bit about this presentation. First thing that we're going to cover is the operation of the KansasPlanner.com system. I'll show you the link where you can find the video that will run you through that process. After that, I'll go through an overview of the ESF 12 Kansas Planning Standards. And I would like to note that this is a video that's designed to help guide you through the process, but you will need to provide more specific information about your jurisdiction in order to complete your emergency operations plan in the system. So this here is the link that will take you to the information on how to complete the annexes in the KansasPlanner.com system, and you can just watch the YouTube video and it'll give you information. If you need more information after that or more clarification on how to go through a process, please just contact KDM Plans and we'll help you out with that. Okay, now I'm going to get into the Kansas Planning Standards and we're going to talk about some of the requirements for ESF 12. The first thing that we want to talk about is resources. Please keep in mind, as I said before, that all of these items are going to give you some general information and you're going to need to provide more information that's specific about your jurisdiction. Beginning with resources, we ask, identify how agencies will support mission assignments with limited fuel availability. This is obviously something that comes up during disasters. If your local power is knocked out and your fueling stations are unable to fuel your vehicles and generators, that's an issue that regularly comes up, and it's something that we need to address here in the emergency operations plan. A lot of people have said fuel will be procured locally, which is really what happens if it's available. And they attach a bulk fuel storage map that shows the locations of their local gas stations, elevator, cooperatives, or any other places where they may have fuel available to fuel emergency vehicles. For priority of those, it's usually said that the priority will be determined by the incident command or by the emergency operations center, and that fueling will be based on life safety, protection of property, and incident stabilization. And again, you can be more specific here, and we encourage you to be as specific as possible about what some of your priorities may be locally in your jurisdictions. The next thing that we talk about is identify all bulk fuel storage facilities, both public and private. Now, the question that we get brought up a lot is, are we going to have to list the farmers out in the country who have fuel available that they use only for their tractors? And I say you don't have to list that information unless you're expecting that you're going to use the farmer's fuel in the case of an emergency. If it's, say, a co-op elevator that has fuel that's available that you have used in the past and you know you would use again, you will absolutely want to list that even though that's a private organization that owns that fuel. So a lot of people will say something along the lines of the county primarily uses these locations for its fuel supply. And this could be county-owned facilities or public fueling stations such as a gas station. And then for more information about that, you're going to want to refer to the bulk fuel storage map, which you're going to attach to the file archives. The next item we want to talk about is identify alternate fuel providers for emergency responding agencies, to include but not limited to fire service, safety and security, and medical service. One of the first things that we'll go to here again is referring back to that bulk fuel map. The bulk fuel map is going to have the list of where everything's at, and so we want to try to not repeat information as best we can. We can just refer back to the same document. After that, you'll want to say the county has private contract fuel available, and the contact number and the organization that we have that contract fuel is such and such. You want to spell out specifically who it is that you contact and what that organization is, and if you have contract information, you want to put that information in so that you understand how to go about getting that fuel when the time comes. You put that in, you'll say the county requests fuel using this process as organized through, let's say, Incident Command or the EOC or through a logistics request. And you have a contract number with that organization. Now, some of the organizations that you may have pre-existing or pre-disaster contracts with would be like your local farmers cooperative, a petroleum marketers association, or any of other fueling stations or anyone that can deliver fuel to you if your primary source is not available. You may also say if primary fuel sources become unavailable, alternate providers will be mission assigned to provide that fuel. That mission assignment can be done through ESF 5 or ESF 7, whichever one you have active at the time of the disaster. And you can use that process that you normally would go through of assigning that and tracking those resources. Okay, the next item that we want to talk about is disruptions and restoration. First, we want to ask, describe the process to address significant disruptions to energy supplies, to include but not limited to physical disruption of energy transmission, disruption of distribution systems, and operation failures of such systems. There's lots of instances where power is out or where gas is out or other utilities have become unavailable. And so what we want to talk a little bit about is how we would go addressing those issues. Some of the things that people have said is in order to address a disruption to a transmission, distribution, or operational failure, the local power or the local utility, be that gas or electric, will restore that power based on their priority and availability of crews. A lot of these organizations, such as power and gas, are private, and so your local jurisdiction, your county, is going to have a hard time regulating or telling them what they need to restore first. They're going to do it based on their initial priority, and the best that we can do a lot of times is to cooperate with the organization and just do the best we can, making sure that they understand what our priorities may be as far as where things need to be restored. And that's what I have there as well, is that the county will work with the utility in any way possible to assist in restoration. One of the things that the utility may ask for is assistance in getting to their power lines or to their gas pipes. And that may include snow removal or debris removal or any number of things in order to get to their stuff so that they can make those restorations. Another thing it asks for is describe the process to address significant disruptions based on an economic or international political event. And by and large, a majority of counties are going to have to say that there is basically no capacity to respond to an economic or international political event. Counties or local jurisdictions typically don't have a lot of say-so in that. And so it's okay to say that you can't really do much with that. The next item that it asks for is describe how damage to energy systems outside the county impacts services within the county boundaries. This is important to note that if you have large transmission lines that are running from another county to your county, and there is a likelihood that distribution could be disrupted, put in that information about what those lines are and what the possibilities and what some of the impacts may be. What some people have said is power is provided via transmission lines that traverse from neighboring counties. And then the service, such as, say, Westar or a gas provider like Black Hills, would be responsible for restoration of the energy distribution system were it to be impacted. And now if a city has its own local capacity, a lot of people will rely on the city's distribution, or a county may have its own distribution network. If they have that capacity and it's local, then you want to be able to indicate how external power disruptions may cause the locals to either share with their neighboring counties via mutual aid, share power, or what that process is. And it'll be different for every jurisdiction. So just spell out how you're actually going to go about doing that. Okay, let's continue with the disruptions and restoration. The next thing it asks for is describe the process to deal with major utility outages that threaten public health and safety. We definitely know that when it's really hot or really cold out, a loss of energy is something that can affect a large number of people, and it can quickly become a public safety issue. So what a lot of people have said is when possible, facilities that are responsible for public health and safety, they should have a generator or a plan for a generator, at least understand what their facility's generator requirements are. And that the county may open shelters to protect the health and safety of the population in accordance with ESF 6 and or ESF 8. And likely a lot of counties use Red Cross or Salvation Army for sheltering. And so if you're going to open a shelter, you may write some information here about not only coordinating with ESF 6, but also coordinating with the American Red Cross. Also, you probably would say something that the county would report monitor and report the status of utility outages to ESF5 so that that information is transmitted to other people or updated in WebEOC so that you're not just doing this all on your own. If it becomes a real public safety issue, then it's something you want to make sure that others know so they can help you set up cooling stations or warming centers or warming shelters to protect the health and safety of the public. The next item we want to talk about is identify the coordination between utility service providers and ESF 13 for restoration issues. This is pretty simple, I think. For the most part, there isn't a lot of security that goes into ESF 12. However, when it comes to something like a gas outage and they're turning the gas back on, sometimes they'll ask for law enforcement or public safety to go with them because they're going to be entering a large number of houses and making sure pilot lights are lit and so forth. So if that happens in that instance, you just want to spell out that ESF 12 is going to coordinate with ESF 13 in order to ensure the safety and security of utility service crews and the public. And then just write out that process of if they're going to work with the sheriff's office, if they're going to work with city PD, or what the case may be. The next item is identify the process to emergency repair and restore the energy and/or utility infrastructure. Here's something where you may say the maximum extent feasible, the county or the city is going to coordinate with the utility service providers because they're the ones that are going to own this stuff for the most part. And you're going to share that priority restoration list. You guys are going to work together in order to complete that restoration. And then restoration priorities will be shared with the EOC and/or the incident command in order to make sure that everyone is on the same page for what's being restored and what the timeline looks like for that. Okay, so that goes through most of the planning standards as far as what information needs to be included in there. As you can see, there's not a ton of information that needs to be included in order to fill that. So since it's less information, you can be really specific about it, hopefully, and get some really good information in there. Here we have a list of stuff that needs to be attached to the file archives. You'll need information about contacts as far as who are you going to contact for ESF 12 related issues. You'll need a list of critical local facilities having priority restoration. So if you have, say, a senior center or a hospital that doesn't have a generator, then you'll want to put those critical facilities down in a list to make sure that when the time comes and generators are being sent out to people, that those people are at the top of the list to make sure that we're protecting life safety. You'll also need to identify critical facilities that may require electric generation. And this includes, but not limited to, you need to include what the type of facility is, what the generator size is, the generator hookup requirements, and that means that you need to include whether or not it has a current hookup or if it needs to have the pigtails brought out in order to set everything up to the building. And then you'll also need to include contact information for who's going to hook that up, because what we've seen a number of times, especially during snow and ice storms, is that someone will call and say, we need a generator for a facility. A generator gets out to the facility and it's either the wrong size generator, or the building doesn't have the hookups for that type of generator, or there's nobody there to hook it up. So a lot of people already have these generator lists or lists of buildings that have installed generators, and if you can put those in a priority list, that will usually work. If you have more questions about that one specifically, please make sure you're contacting KDM Plans and we can help walk you through that. The next thing that you'll need to include is the identify utilities serving the local area. Include the area and number of customers served. So as far as your electrical and gas distribution, you just include those utilities that are serving the county, and a lot of times which ones feed into the cities, and then a general number of how many people are within that jurisdiction. If you have any sample forms or logs that are related to ESF 12, you can include those. Any plans that are related to ESF 12 outside of this ESF, you'll include that stuff in there as well. And then you'll want to include a map of each utility service area, and then, as we said before, the map of bulk fuel storage facilities, both public and private. Once you've got all this information listed, all of the stuff through the annex you've put into the system, you can go into the reports tab, and it's real easy to go in here and click on the little Word document icon on the right next to ESF 12, and it'll give you that report so you can easily view and see what you've done there. Please keep in mind that you don't want to make changes to the actual report itself. You want to go back into the concept of operations sections and make those changes. Okay, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact KDM Plans, and we'd be happy to address that. Thank you.